Mom had never really explained it to us.
Mm.
And then I remember she yelled at your grandpa, "No need, this girl, this Lupe's having, she's going to have her baby." And he got all panicky. And he went, she told him, "Go and start the car. You got to take her to the hospital." Well, he had left the darn keys in the car and locked the car. So he went around the car and he tried to open it and he realized the keys were in there. So he came back in. "Mom, I left the keys in the car." And she said, "Well, where are your other keys?" He says, "I don't know." So they looked all over in the kitchen and the cupboard and finally they found them. And he says, "Hurry up." She said, "She's going to end up, that baby's coming, that baby's coming." I don't know why she thought that, but I guess she knew because by the time he took me to the hospital. When I got there, they got the nurse came out and got a wheelchair and put me in it. They took me straight to the delivery room.
Mm.
I mean, I had the baby right away. I
How
mean,
much time?
I
By the
didn't
time you
even
got
go
there?
to the labor room. They took me straight. They said this girl is having her baby. It was already coming out.
Mm.
So I had her, I mean, right away. And I mean, it hurt, cramps, but it wasn't as bad as now after, when I had Jamie, my last baby,
Mm.
or Larry. Larry was a really easy birth. But with your mom, I mean, I just, like I tell you, I just went in there and straight to the delivery room and I had her,
Mm.
And with Mark, I remember we were living on 8th Street in an apartment our own when I started getting sick too. So I remember I called out my mom and I told her, because your grandpa's mom wasn't here, she was in Sacramento, and she came over from Oxnard, so she would take care of your mom. And your dad, it was during like the winter, and grandpa hadn't worked, so he was working here on San Paulo Street with his brother doing a fireplace. So I told him, "Go to work." I said, "I don't think that I'm going to have the baby yet. It's probably just false alarm," not knowing that he was coming. And sure enough, your grandma took me to the hospital. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we stopped there at where he was working here on San Paulo Street. And I told him, "My mom's taking me to the hospital. I think I'm having the baby." So he said, "Well, I'll be over late, after he, gave the material to his brother, for work." So when I got to the hospital, the same thing happened. I had him within probably 15 minutes. I was, had him really quick. It was a little bit more painful than with your mom. And when he got there, Mark had already been born,
Mm.
So then my mom took your mom home with her, so I stayed in the hospital. Then they used to leave you 3 days after childbirth. And when my mom wanted me to go to her house, for a few days, to take care of me, and with a new baby, and your mom was still small, barely,
Mm.
she hadn't even started walking. She was just on the verge. She was still afraid to walk. But by the time I went over there, they got her walking. My mom and my dad,
Mm.
So then your dad went and he picked me up, and we came back home. So it was, I was lucky in a way that it was a real easy, birth. And with Michael, the same thing too. He was born in the morning. And with Larry, what was it, 8 years later that I had Larry, 8 or 9 years later, when I had Larry, uh, that I told the doctor, I said, "It's probably going to be a girl. I always wanted another daughter. I always wanted two girls." And then he says, "Well, I can't tell right now." During those days, he still couldn't tell like nowadays. So I remember even going to the store already and buying little dresses because I was just determined it was going to be a girl. And when the time came, that I was going to give birth to Larry, I had like a backache, but honestly, I didn't have any pain.
Mm.
It was weird. And I remember your grandpa taking me to the hospital because I was hurting really bad from my back. And then they checked me and they told me, "Oh, she's going to have her baby." And I told them, "No, I don't have any cramps or anything like that." And she told me, "Yes, you're going to have the baby. You'll probably have it today." So they kept me at the hospital. And I remember when they came, there was a couple other ladies, ready to give birth to in the delivery room. And then the nurse came in and I heard her talking to another nurse and she said, oh, she's ready to have her baby. You better wheel her into the delivery room. And during those days, they didn't let the husband go in with you, you know, or be there with you. So when they came and they started wheeling me and I told them, what are you doing? She says, we're going to take you to the delivery room. I said, I'm not ready. I'm not going to have the baby yet. They told me, yes, you are. You're going to have the baby. You're ready to have it. The doctor's getting changed, because you're ready to have the baby. So when they took me, and I still thought they're wrong, it can be, because the other ones were short birth, but with Mark and Michael, I had like pain, you know. And they took me and I had the baby, and then he tells me, you have another boy. And I remember it was Dr. Malone, and he had seen me from the other three, and I told him, oh, you're teasing me. I know it's a girl. He says, no, Mrs. Medrano, it's another little boy. And I don't know it's not. You're just tell me it is a little girl. I know it's a girl. And finally, I had to get it through my head. No, it was a boy. So then after Larry and Jamie are 2 years apart. When I had Jamie, I didn't even think about a girl because I thought for sure it was going to be a boy. And with Jamie, I remember I went through my 9 months, and I remember feeling sick, and I went to the doctor that morning, and he told me, you're already dilated to, I think it was 3. He says, if you want to have induced labor, he said, go to the hospital at 6 o'clock. By then, you're not in the hospital. And I didn't really know induced labor what it was. I knew it was faster to have the baby, but I didn't realize it was more painful. And with Jamie, I went in at 6 o'clock. I checked in the hospital. I said, yeah, I want to have the baby today. So sure enough, I get in there. By the time they prepare you, they gave me the injection to induce labor. Within an hour, I started getting the pains, and they were pains. I couldn't even breathe for about an hour. I thought, oh my God. And by then, your grandpa had already had a vasectomy. But when I was pregnant with Jamie, because I told him that was it, we weren't going to have any more kids. He wanted a big family, I guess because he came from a big family.
So you had a vasectomy before Jamie, or during the
During when I was pregnant with Jamie.
Okay.
Because the doctor told me that I wasn't going to be able to take no birth control because I had varicose veins, really bad. So then he told me, you're either going to get yourself fixed after you have this baby, or you can have your husband. So when I came home, I told your grandpa, I said, well, the doctor said, what he had told me. And I didn't want to ask your grandpa, go and have a vasectomy. I wanted it to come out of himself to say it, because I thought afterwards I don't want him saying to me, oh, I wanted another baby, and because of you, you told me to do this or that. So I said, because the doctor said if I had it done, it was going to be more hard because I was going to have a baby and then have that surgery right after birth, not to have no more kids. So then your grandpa said, no, I'll do it. He said, because you're going to have a baby, and it's, then I had the other 4, kids. They were a little bit older, but still,
Why?
So,
how did you know you didn't want any kids anymore?
Because of my veins, that I wasn't going to be, and I wasn't going to take no birth control, and I didn't want anymore. I thought, well, I'm not going to have a girl. I'll probably end up, because the doctor, when Jamie was born, he says, we'll have one more. He says, then you'll have a basketball team. I said, we can't. I said, we can't have any more because, your grandpa had fixed himself a few months. And I told your grandpa, if you're going to have that done, I want you to do it before Jamie, the last one, is born. Because I thought, why if he changes his mind, then I'm going to have to go through it after I have the 5th kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to take care of them. It's going to be more hard on me. So he said, no, I'll do it before, you have the baby, a few months before. So he did. He went in with Dr. Malone, wouldn't do it because we were Catholic and they didn't believe in that. So he had to go to another doctor that was right next door, and he had it done. So then I said, well, that was fine,
Okay, hold on. I just want to check to see, make sure it was recording. Okay, yeah, we're good. So, a lot of people talk about postpartum depression. Did you ever feel that with any of the pregnancies or
you know
births?
what? I think because I had the first 3 so close together, I was so busy doing it that it didn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think, how did I do it? You know, because by then, I mean, then we didn't have Pampers. It had to be cloth diapers. Everything was so different, you know, more hard for a woman. But like I didn't work, so it gave me time to do all that. I never went through that. Then when I had Larry and Jamie, I think in a way we were a little bit older, both of us. That I think when you're older, you appreciate them more, your babies. You know, not that I was a mean mom, but I enjoyed it more. You know, like Larry and Jamie, or maybe because I had the other three so close, I didn't have time. You know what I mean? To kind of spoil each of them. You know.
Mm-hmm. Um, maybe you can talk to me about the transformation of who you were before and then after becoming a mom. Is
Um.
you said you spoke a little bit about like now I had to put somebody else before me. You said you started feeling that when you had Mark.
Uh huh.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Um. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I meant like with your mom, it was like it was something new, but like I told you, Margie taught me a lot about that. I wasn't really even a cook because my mom, like I tell you, never let us cook. I didn't know how to make anything at all.
Mm.
And she taught me, so I enjoyed it, you know, learning, you know, the cooking. And with your mom as a baby, I enjoyed her because